what can this mean, and what does this mean for the continued Africa-Israel relationship in this shift that's happening right now? Israel is in the East. It's a democracy, so they see it as like a Western country in the East. But what does this mean for the Africa-Israel relationship?
I mean, for us at IPSI and for me personally, it's even more exciting because the first thing that we need to recognize is that there is a growing trend of countries paying attention to Africa and being like, oh, wait, maybe there is something that Africa has to offer. And frankly, Israel has been a friend of Africa as we explore at IPSI since antiquity, right? From Queen Masheda and King Solomon, but also in the early days of the freedom of from colonialism on the African continent. Israel was there. Israel was present on the African continent. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu several years ago uttered those incredible words that Africa is coming back to Israel and Israel is coming back to Africa. So as in terms of the movement of countries working with Africa, Israel's already there. What's also interesting is the fact that there are agendas or items on the agendas for these countries, for BRIC countries, for African countries, for countries in the global south, for countries in the east, that are of more importance than those issues that are highlighted by the West. The Ukraine-Russian war is important, but not as important to these countries, and issues such as counterterrorism and cybersecurity and food security are issues that are really, really prevalent and of high priority. Israel has the technology in relation to this. It has the innovation in relation to this. So here's an opportunity for all that Israel can offer, that she can do so even more and do so even more powerfully. So it's a very exciting time. Also culturally, in terms of values, from a Judeo-Christian perspective, there's a lot of alignment of values, but even in terms of things such as family and the value for life and education, there's lots of similarities there. So there's great things happening. There's also the very concerning things, and some of that speaks to not only the Africa-Israel relationship, but also what this means for African countries and countries that find themselves in a similar position as Africa, where there's a problem with terrorism. Let's not forget how Iran funds terrorism, not only in the Middle East, but also in the African continent. One of the things that we as IPSI have already explored, and I would encourage whoever's listening, if you're interested to see the impact of this, that terrorism has shifted from being the highest in the Middle East to now being on the African continent. So if you're not going to engage with relations with a country such as Iran, which is a proxy for many of these terrorist organizations that we have across the world, what does that mean for the safety and the security of the African people? Also, yes, China has brought great infrastructure to the African continent. China is investing greatly with regards to the economy and economic empowerment. And what is the cost to that? What has the cost of that been? What is it going to be as well? There's talk of an economic colonization that is taking place across the African continent by China. We can't turn our backs on that. Russia as well. So yes, there's things that Russia has to offer us. There's also problems with regards to the Russia relationship. So as it pertains to the African countries on their own, there really are some problems that we now need to consider as well as recognize. Whilst at the same time, there are these great opportunities. And it is my hope and my prayer that people that are invested and see the not only redemptive purpose of the Africa-Israel relationship, but really want to see the empowerment of the African people, as well as the betterment and the strengthening of the Africa-Israel relationship, that they will encourage African nations and work with IPSI and DAISY and other organizations that are in the weeds of this, to strengthen relationships and ties and create avenues for education and engagement with countries where we can further galvanize, not only support for, but bring to the fore the very Zionist DNA of these countries and these cultures, and not allow, as these countries are moving more and more into the arms of the Chinas of the world and the Russias of the world and the Irans of the world, to then also adopt an ideology that says Israel is evil, Israel is not our friend, we shouldn't work with Israel, because we know both from history, but also in terms of scripture, that will not bode well for any country, but more specifically for countries across Africa.